That's the hope. What's Trending is presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. This is a place of eternal truth, and those are taught here and lived. So let's play a little BYU Sports version of true or false. We got several topics to cover the gamut of what's going down. BYU's win total projection for 2025 fell from 7.5 to 6.5, according to Circa, after the report that Jake Retzlaff intends to transfer. That gives BYU the 8th highest projected win total in the Big 12. True or false? BYU is not a top 5 team in the Big 12 without Jake Retzlaff at quarterback.
I am going to say false. I still believe BYU can finish as one of the top 5 teams in this conference. I'm not surprised that the win total dropped by a game. That's what we all kind of assumed. That's fair.
Yeah.
Where I have the issue is that it started at 7.5 in terms of the wins.
You wanted it what, 8.5?
8.5, or quite frankly, 8.5 or 9.5.
9.5 would have been real high.
Agreed,
yeah.
But that's where I have the issue. I don't have the issue with it dropping a game. But look, and it sounds like that I'm saying that the quarterback doesn't matter, that you're minimizing what Jake did or what the quarterback position is. Of course not. That's not what we're doing. But I still believe that this team is good enough to finish as a top 5 team in the Big 12, even with, right, at least as of today, the uncertainty on who will be the starting quarterback. So right now I'm going to say false.
Why is that? Why do you feel that way?
Well, because I feel like I keep harping on this because I believe in this team. I believe in the offense. I believe in the scheme. And I think it goes back to what we heard the other day. Maybe it was yesterday. This kind of the days seem to all run together in terms of all the interviews and the quotes that keep coming out. But yes, there will be a quarterback taking snaps, we believe, that has not taken snaps as a BYU guy.
Well, that's a guarantee.
But the scheme is the same. The coaches are the same. While some of the players and weapons around have changed a little bit,
not too much.
Your go-to guys, Chase Roberts, LJ Martin, JoJo, Parker Kingston, those guys are still there. Your tight ends, which we all expect to have a much bigger role.
Tight end? What?
So
BYU's going to use the tight end.
I understand, and there will be a couple of other topics that we'll get to in a few minutes where it's clear BYU is being dinged quite heavily because of the uncertainty at quarterback, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And
it was a senior to be. That's a big deal. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just believe that this team is still good enough to achieve the goals that it had set for itself prior to everything that's taken place.
And that's college football playoff, frankly, and the Big 12 title game. More on who, On 3 did a poll, and they have some interesting info. We'll give that in a second. To me, it's TBD. It's based on QB play. I need to see how that quarterback performs. Because if the defense is amazing, the special teams is amazing, and the quarterback is just meh, the run game's going to have to be incredible. Like, there are elements to this that really matter of who's slinging it, who's running. Is it McKay Hillstead? Is it Trace Bourget? Is it Bear Bachmeyer? We will see. What we believe is what you outlined. I'll continue to make that point. We believe the defense could be the top defense in the league or close to it again. Improved defensive tackle play, 2 NFL linebackers, loaded secondary that's deep. Special teams, Will Fair and Parker Kingston are back. Keelan Marion averaged about 18 yards per return minus the 2 TD returns. Those 2 TDs were awesome. When he wasn't returning them for a touchdown, they weren't that far, let's be honest. Offensively, Cougars expect a good offensive line. You have 2 new tackles with Isaiah Jada, Andrew Gentry, and then Lapuaho Mitchell, Makasini Leusa on the interior 4 dudes for 3 spots. Those guys have experience. LJ Martin, Sione Moa, Pokai Haunga, apparently Hinckley Ropati is going to be back too, which is interesting. That's a loaded room. I really like that too. Tight ends, they like Carson Ryan from Utah. We haven't seen the tight end used a ton since, frankly, 2020 with Isaac Rex. Biggest TBDs, QB, man. And that's probably the difference between 8-ish wins and 10 or 11 wins. Is BYU top 5 with a new QB? They'd have to go 6-3 in league probably. The schedule is always tough in this league. We'll see who's not as good as we thought. We'll see who's better than we thought.
Because there are always teams that you thought were going to be great. Look,
last year we thought ASU was going to stink.
Yes.
BYU was coming off 5-7. BYU was one of those teams.
It never truly plays out like everybody thinks. There will always be surprises. There will always be disappointments.
Yes. So I cannot declare today true or false in this. I have to see that quarterback.
I would like you to declare today.
I won't say it. I'll declare it, Michael Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it's until the quarterback is named, there's going to be a.
It's not named enough for me. I have to see him play.
No, but at least
like
once you know who it's going to be, you can then okay, we'll probably see. To what you were talking about, if it's McKay Hillstead, okay, we'll probably see more of the run game out of the quarterback.
Yes.
That we will have that element.
I need to see them execute on 3rd and 6, down 6 with 4 minutes to go at their own 28. Like, I just need all the situations. It's all new. It's P4. If it's Bear Bachmeier and he wins the job, it's college football. Right. I mean, none of these guys took a snap last year in college, let alone at BYU. So it is totally new. We have confidence in this group, but certainly that quarterback, let's be honest. When you see Jake Retzlaff and you see like 58% completion percentage and 12 picks, you think, well, those weren't monster numbers, but he had a few clutch moments where that guy had to make those plays.
Yeah.
Who is that guy, and will he make those plays? I'm going to enjoy the process of watching that play out.
And specifically with this year's non-conference schedule, specifically the first 2 of the first 3, I think it is one that will help out this situation at quarterback because you've got Portland State, you've got Stanford, both at home, where you should be 2-0 regardless of who the quarterback is after those 2 games.
You better be 3-0. If you're losing at ECU, you can't be like, we're going gangbusters on the Big 12.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be 3-0 going into Colorado. And frankly, you should win that game too, be 4-0.
Okay, all right. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark said this week at Media Days that the Big 12 got rid of the preseason poll because it hurt teams like Arizona State last year
and
BYU and adds no value to the conference. That's why they nixed it.
Adds value to our daily show.
that is where we miss it. Spencer then spoke with ESPN's Matt Berry at Media Days about his thoughts on getting rid of the preseason poll, and he added this about the preseason AP poll.
It's my biggest pet peeve in college football. Of all the things I love about the sport, preseason polls, rankings, they're garbage. They mean nothing. There are teams that are ranked in the top 10 that won't sniff the top 40 at the end of the season. But they get the benefit of the doubt of being the top 10 team. Here's the other thing about them. If you find a team that comes up the rankings in the season, like, oh, they got a top 5 win early in the season. Well, where's that top 5 team now that was preseason ranked top 5? They're 35th.
All right, true or false? College football should get rid of the preseason AP poll.
True. I actually want it away until after week 6, Sunday, October 5th.
Oh, you want your cake and eat it too?
All of it. If it's my birthday, absolutely. Sunday, October 5th is when I want the first poll. Because
very specific.
Yes, because it's after week 6. Let's see half the season. And then we can really assess what the teams are. It's so true. I'm not big on the win when it happened thing. I'm big on the, well, what were they at the end of the year? And so I would like it to go away because it did hurt BYU last year. If you just blind resumed BYU, they should have probably been in the mix for the college football playoff more than they were. And that was really frustrating. It really was.
Okay, but don't you, and I agree with you.
I like the marketing angle of all of it,
yes.
Blah, blah, blah. But is it helpful to have the AP poll in the preseason? Is it helpful to even have it in the first month?
I'm going to agree with you.
I don't think it is.
It's true. I agree. You should probably get rid of the preseason AP poll altogether. I don't care. I mean, if you bring it back a month in, 2 months, whatever. At the end of the day, I'll say true to get rid of it. But for the example that you used in terms of it hurting BYU, there will be years where it could help. So it is a double-edged sword. But getting rid of it
hasn't very often enough for me to want.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly fine. If you take out the equation where we get to talk about it and it's a talking point for a while, whether it's good or bad,
I think we got enough.
Then in terms of what it's for and how it actually could hurt you, because I think it can hurt you more than it can help you.
Yes.
For that reason alone, I say I'm perfectly fine to get rid of it. And again, it feels like there's momentum that way to eventually get rid of some of these things that have always been a part of college football.
I mean, it's only one power league
right.
so far. I wouldn't call that momentum per se. I would call that just one act.
No, but the fact that we're even having these conversations, and it's becoming more and more, people are more vocal about it.
One league is. If the Big Ten or SEC don't do one, now we're talking. Now there's actual sway there, in my opinion. Okay, our question today is this. Should college football get rid of the preseason AP poll? Why or why not? At DHodges89 on X, 100%. There should be no polls for at least a few weeks each year. Too many people are biased by where a team starts the year. It really does affect you on Selection Sunday. Still, in basketball, it's nice. We don't really care about the polls. We care about net. We care about bracketology. In football, the polls are everything. And we look at the AP poll, and we put it in the blender, and we talk about it all the time. Then the college football playoff poll comes out, and we just forget about the AP poll. It's a weird deal. What if we just didn't care anymore about that? This is the age of a ton of information. This is not 1984 where we're waiting for the newspaper to come out to know what happened on the East Coast, maybe. Or the nightly news, like 10 o'clock news has a different place than it did then. Information travels in a different way. We don't need to have falsities of information relative to sports teams. We can just watch them play and then see where they end up. So at Ty Scott Jensen on X. No, I like it. Why not? Teams and players just can't let it get to their head. Well, you don't like it if it doesn't get you into the playoff because you weren't ranked as high. And in 1984, BYU was unranked to start. They go and win the ship. That's because a lot of teams lost. There were no undefeateds. BYU kind of got lucky that there were no undefeateds. But if it was modern, it was poll-based and everything, well, I don't know, based on they weren't ranked at the beginning. Who cares? Like, what do you actually do on the field? That's what should matter. And if you're going to say the 5+11, earn it on the field, this messaging is in line with the actions that the Big 12 is taking. We're not going to do a preseason poll because we want to get 2 teams in. That's the goal of the league.
All right. At Big 12 Media Days yesterday, former Cougar linebacker Kyle Whittingham, Utah head coach, said that the BYU-Utah game could and should be instrumental in who ends up winning the Big 12. So true or false, the winner of the BYU-Utah game will play in the Big 12 championship game?
I want it to be true relative to BYU, and not a big fan of the other team on the other side there. That's the most respect, by the way, Kyle's given BYU in a long time to allude that potentially BYU would be in the mix there. Utah feels like they were close. They were 1-5 in one-score games last year, and they had an abysmal offense. They bring in Devin Dampier from New Mexico. Jason Beck was that OC. They have a great offensive line. Spencer Fano is one of the best right tackles in college football. BYU was a few plays away. I can see the argument. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There's 16 teams in the league.
That's why I'll say false, because there's absolutely no way of knowing. First, this conference, there's so much parity in this conference. For us to day one or on July 10th, to say that team for sure is going to be in the Big 12, there's not a chance in the world, so I will say false for that reason.
Yeah. Okay, sticking with the Big 12 title game. On 3's Brett McMurphy. That's a new gig for him. Conducted a poll of Big 12 coaches at Big 12 Media Days about which 2 teams they believe will play in the title game, and the 2 with the most votes were Kansas State and Iowa State. True or false? Kansas State and Iowa State will play in the Big 12 championship game. Of note, BYU was not mentioned as either of the 2 teams by anyone polled.
Did not receive a vote.
Did not receive a vote.
I will say false.
I like that we left a certain team off the graphic who got 1 vote.
Look, you got to have more than 1 to make the graphic, right?
Yeah, right? 1 is not.
I'll say false for the same reasons for the argument I just made for the BYU-Utah game. There's no way of knowing. Now, out of these 2, I think there's one, in my opinion, I think has a better shot than the other. That would be Kansas State.
Okay.
I love Avery Johnson, and I know last year didn't go the way that K-State fans wanted, or K-State themselves wanted.
It went great in Provo for BYU.
It did go great in Provo, but I love Chris Kleiman as a head coach. I love what he does. He will get this going again. So between the 2, I like K-State, but I will say false with those 2 if we're having to pick today.
Yeah, I'll say false too, just because someone's going to show up that you don't expect. Last year, Iowa State finally got to double-digit wins for the first time ever.
Right.
They had never done it. Now they're expected to do it with Rocco Beck, that great defense. K-State, to me, Avery Johnson's the best dual threat in the league. Devin Dampier, hopefully, Utah fans think he's the guy. Texas Tech loaded up in the portal with Cody Campbell's money. Baylor ended the season on a 6-game win streak in the regular season. That offense was amazing. Josh Hoover threw for 4,000 yards. there's so much parity in this league. Like, can BYU sort of do what they did last year and have a quarterback who manages the game, is clutch at times, great defense, special teams, good run game, and challenge and be in the mix for this? Because I think this team is anxious. They've talked a lot about the Big 12 title game, a lot about proving themselves right, not proving others wrong, but they would prove others wrong in this poll as well. Whatever motivation you need.
I alluded to this at the beginning of this segment. This, to me, is a perfect example of where BYU has gotten significantly dinged because of the quarterback.
Because Retzlaff out.
So here's my question to you.
If Retzlaff is in it.
That's where I was going with this.
Sorry, go ahead.
If Jake Retzlaff was going to be the quarterback this year,
yes,
how many of these teams do you believe BYU would be in front of right now? Because
I believe BYU would be 5th.
Okay, I think they're ahead of Utah. They're ahead of Baylor. I don't understand the TCU thing right now. I'm not saying that they can't be.
They're an outlier.
But I'm surprised that they got 3 first-place votes.
I'm actually higher on Baylor than the coaches.
So I would put BYU ahead of Utah, Baylor, TCU, and then
Texas Tech added so much in the portal.
Yes, they spent so much money.
They could absolutely be one of the best teams.
They could also do what happened to BYU, and BYU corrected themselves, where they got so much out of the transfer portal and continuity.
Yes.
It took them a long, long time, and they never quite found the continuity that they needed.
Yes, but BYU is absolutely a quarterback away from being an obvious pick here. One of the 3 or 4.
Yeah.
They really are. Okay, NCAA tournament expansion expected to have a decision within the next 24 hours. True or false? The NCAA tournament should expand past 68.
False.
Who wants this?
Capital
besides the money grabbers.
Well, that's all these decisions boil down to is
like, who wants this?
It's more revenue. That's all this is.
Yeah.
Look, I think it was Stuart Mandel yesterday put out a poll about, do you want the NCAA tournament to expand? Yes or no? And the results were 93% no. And he's like, in today's society, if you get 93% of society to agree on something, that's a pretty strong argument.
That's a very strong argument.
No, I didn't even like the adding of the first 4, the play-ins. I didn't even like any of that.
I don't know what the point of that is.
We're just devaluing the specialty of getting there. It's like what we've done with the bowl system.
Yeah. And
everybody gets in, so there's nothing special about it.
No one has made their playoffs shorter. The NBA has added play-in games.
Right.
They have added wildcard teams to NFL and MLB. It's all for money. It's all for TV and revenue and whatnot. BYU's not in a hopefully they get in situation as long as one Kevin Young is the head coach here. And so we don't care about this as much as we would. I think a couple years ago, we would have been like, this is great.
Yes.
But now we're in a different atmosphere with BYU basketball, so we don't want it.